How's it going, everyone? William Gonzalez here. Today we're gonna explore now at how can we build this recurring application in React Native as a way to now put a practice of everything that we have learned so far and finally, well, develop these features. And in the next videos, we're gonna also focus on how can we now build and deploy our apps to the store using Expo, which is this framework around React Native. But in today's video, let's going to look at how can we now create this schedule notification. So far we made this, especially this is with schedule notification is by exploring the topics here like so. All right, schedule notifications using, of course, is push notifications to do that, and there you go. Actually is quite involved. You can put it this stuff here as a way to know how to do that, and also the code to schedule notifications, so GitHub Actions of React Task Native. There you got it. There's one issue here. Collaboration. Who the fuck is it? Hello, I'm Bob, and I just reached you out to you after reviewing your GitHub activity, which I consider to be the most amazing talent. I am also a dev and finding opportunity to make fun and brainiac while working with some of else legends. A lot of ideas and potential to keep staying at the top of the industry. If it goes right, let's connect, bro. Share and move forward together. Looking forward to talking to you. Who are you? And why you have this heritage activity as private, as well as the repo? Okay. Well, if you're interested in a collaboration, contact me over LinkedIn. Yeah, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of shady people, you know. There's a lot of shady people here. To be like, really? That's gonna make it professional, bro. Because I'm not playing games to win stupid prize. All right. Where we are? Device interaction, user experience enhancements, that kind of stuff. Yes, device interactions. Here we put it the schedule here. We went over of how can we actually is from React Native adding this notification that is like this, right? As you click yes, you say, hey, it's a notification from your app. So to show this notification, at least on Android, and then also in iOS, this is something that doesn't work on, or you can test on the device, at least those that are provided by Expo, which is, unfortunately, this is what it is. But we can now look at how can we schedule notifications, and because here, the way to do that on your mobile, they have two types, so push and in-app notifications. So we focus our attention on creating this in-app notification because it's much more easy to, it's workshopable, right? I think that's something that it mentioned, that workshoppable, right? Unlike the push notification, where the idea behind that is that the server, your push server, somehow knows the push notifications device, and then it sends that to Firebase or Apple and redirect that to your device. Again, this is quite involved, right? And we look at these in-app notifications. So to do this, we rely on the Expo notification as well as the Expo device to check first that if you want to do now on Android, you need to create a channel for that. This is from Android 8 and so on. There, where you need to put is this notification in this channel. Unlike iOS, you don't have to do that. And verify the permissions for showing you notifications, right? So this is something that is only asked once, and if for some reason you or the user reject, or for some reason he misclick on cancel, so you need to go through settings and then enable that from there. So we look at how can we do that, and then how from here ask the permissions for that, right? It was quite straightforward, but in today's video we are going to look now at this, right? So this is schedule notifications, blah 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 blah, and well, let's go to now the recurring reminder. So the recurring reminder, schedule notifications. Let me actually put here now the Expo notifications, like that. Exactly. Specifically, not the guideline, but the reference here, the notifications, particularly the in-app, right? The in-app notifications to the user. This is now the code to actually do that. So you have now the notification handlers to show that, as well as how you're gonna interact from React using, of course, use effect to do that. In away notifications, schedule notification here. This is a functions to actually register now your notifications to show that, right? Hey, what is the type of a schedule you want to show? And this is now the register for push notification here, which is for Android. As I mentioned before, if this platform is Android, you need to create now is a channel for that. And because notifications only works on a end device, right? Which is quite odd, quite weird. Notification guide, do not miss, or notification guys. Let me see if this mentions something like this. Pressing a login in-app notification. To show an alert, right? And a schedule notification async. Export router or React navigation. Configuration. Oh, well, let's explore here the guidelines for the push notifications here, about the notification types, like this. This is a very important topic. Expo notification supports both push and local notification, and you must use development build to use push notifications since they are not supporting in Expo Go. And also that this kind of applications will show off they will show off so you can have this different type of notifications or deliveries, whether it's on the front ground, foreground, or background, or terminated. but I don't see anything related to that push notification, or at least in-app notifications. Expert push notifications. Exactly. Push notifications are not supported on Android emulator and iOS simulators. A real device is required, which means that you might wonder, is in-app notifications are supported by that? Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, in-app notifications are not. Are not. So, for example, if we do this, and when we try to, how can we now go to home? Okay. So, for example, if we, I don't think we're actually synchronized to this. Let me actually test this, and then we can move on to our scheduler or to our recurring reminder app that we're gonna build. Let me see if we are actually connected to that, which is cursor. That's right. Task list React Native.git. But I don't think we are. Yeah, we're not. Anyway, git status. Nothing to commit. Follow me along a little bit. Come with me. Come with me. To the code. Right. Come with me. I want to create now a new branch, which is a recurring reminder. I think it is. Recurring, where in the F is this? Recurring, exactly, recurring reminder. Recurring reminder, all right. In fact, let me switch first to the main. Git pull whatever you got on the on that server, GitHub repo, main branch, whatever you have that, please fetch that, right? Which is good. And then now I can create that. Well, here, because I already created that branch, let me actually delete the recurring reminder, and then I want to create now a branch from this, which is git switch -c, say recurring reminder. Awesome, we did that. Or that is done. And let's go to, in our case, look at the package JSON, or a more friendly way to do that is look at the package JSON, right? And from there, see what is the script here. We're gonna go with this star, expo star. All right, let's get into this. No, I think I can use yarn here. That's right, there's a yarn log, yarn star. Okay, it's going to create now, it create the tunnel, and also create is the metro, which is this bundler similar to Webpack for the web, but now this is for React Native. And what it does is to now look at the entry point of your application, and then import all of the code into one single file, which is used to improve the initial rendering in your app. And also behind the scenes, Metro is providing things like hot mode reload. So it's going to explore this Metro bundler. right? So this provide is exactly. So this provide now a exactly giving config metro server. It will run a server that is going to communicate the exactly the concepts. Let's go to this quickly. Okay, here we are with the concept of metro. So metro is this JavaScript bundler, right? So it takes in an entry file and various options and give you a single JavaScript file that includes all your code and its dependency. So metro has a 3 separate stage in its building process. This might not be sound sexy, but it's important to recap each one of them, right? Why is that? Especially if you're going to build any application, React Native app, you need to understand how the things work. And if everything will run, you know how to fix that. Pretty much like if you have a fridge or your own mobile phone or your motorcycle or even if you are sick, you want to know, or you have some cold, you want to know, all right, what are the things that you need to know to fix that? So, resolutions, transformation, and serializations. All right. So this is resolution. Okay, Metro needs to build a graph of all models that require from the entry points. So to find which file is required from another file, Metro uses a resolver. In reality, this stage happens in parallel with the transformation stage. So the resolution is where it creates, this is quite similar to Webpack. If you take a look at the Webpack here, which now Webpack has become an anti-pattern, right? Take a look at the concepts, entry, output, loaders, plugin, motor, browsers, and that kind of stuff. Manually bundling the application, like coding in basic bundler. Yeah, the entry point, the output. But again, at its core, Webpack is a static model bundler for modern JavaScript applications. When Webpack processes your application, it internally builds a dependency graph, right? So pretty much like Metro does, right? So Metro needs to build a graph of all of the model, and here is when concept like graph, from data structure, how we organize our data, is quite important to understand. Again, this is not a course of data structure, but we're gonna see that later on, so you can actually see, oh, okay, this is stuff that we can apply to real life. Okay. So when Webpack processes your application, it internally builds a dependency graph from one or more entry points. Interesting, but in this case, it only use from the entry point. Allegedly here is using only one from one entry point, and then combines every model then combines every model your project needs into one or more bundles, which are static assets to serve your content from. Since version 4, Webpack does not require a configuration file to bundle your project, nevertheless, it is incredibly configurable to better fit your needs. But in any case, what it's doing at high level when you call Webpack is to say, hey, because you have all of these different files here, and the entry point that can be single or multiple, but in our case, let's gonna call this single entry point. From here, we're gonna create this dependency tree or dependency graph, more explicitly. You're gonna create this dependency graph from your entry points that it's going to create one or more bundles, which are static assets to serve your content. So that's quite similar of what Metro does. All right, it creates now a dependency graph. You can hear and explore more about this. HTTP2 aggressive splitting examples, Webpack and HTTP/2. this is bundling your application, especially powerful on HTTP 1.1 client, and it minimizes the number of time your app have to wait while the browser start a new request. For HTTP2, you can also use code splitting to achieve best results. Again, this has become now quite an anti-pattern right now. But the point here is that anytime one file depends on another, Webpack treat this as a dependency. In the old days, we have stuff like CommonJS, which is something that the way how Node.js work, the way how now it resolve models. In any case, JavaScript file. We didn't have any models definition with JavaScript. Now we do. We also need to have some stuff like immediately invoke functional expressions, so enclose this into a closure and then expose only the necessary function for that, so we don't pollute is the global namespace. So this dependency graph, this is what it does, right? So anytime you or the web model bundlers detect now a package or a model that has been poured, it now create this dependency, or it treats that as a dependency. This allows Webpack to take known code assets such as image or web font and also provide them as dependency for your applications. When Webpack processes your application, it starts from a list of models defined on the command line on its configuration file. Starting from this entry point, Webpack recursively, another technique in computer science, recursion, right? So Webpack recursively build the dependency graph, right? So it go into that last leaf node, right, or last file that don't have any import, and then now go back to check if any, and that's quite interesting, to go back and then find any other file that also have some dependency nested, and so on and so forth. This might be a very interesting challenge to build, you know, especially is that build a dependency graph. Is that a question? Build a dependency graph in Node or for JavaScript, right? Dependency chart with JavaScript visualization. Yeah, but this is dependency chart. But how can you build that? Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Fujamoto. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it's like this kind of problems are very, very interesting to build with, at least to understand how the things work. Build a dependency graph for JavaScript, lead code, graph and algorithm plus problem to solve, become a mastering graph, Palantir build dependency graph. I received the mail from Palantir that gave me access to HackerRank assessment called build dependency graph. What should I expect? Sort items by group respected. Yeah, because this is one of the things that I don't like, especially as I dive into this. Because, yeah. Again, this is something that is not trivial. This is not a trivial thing, but it will be interesting actually to build that. Not right now, not in today's video, but just we're exploring the concepts from that. So Metro, it has this resolution phase where it starts to create so when it builds the dependency graph, all right, from an entry point. In reality, this stage happening in parallel with the transformation stage. So transformation is all models go through a transformer. A transformer is responsible for converting or transpiling a model to a format that is understandable by the target platform, React Native. So transformation of model happens in parallel because of the amount of cores that you have. But this is transform the model to a format that is understandable by the target platform. Interesting. In our case, by iOS target platform. Okay, and then the serialization. As soon as all of the model has been transformed, as soon as all of the model has been resolved, it knows the graph dependency and transform all of those models into transform a model to a format that is understandable by the React Native or the target by the target platform. For example, React Native, right? Then the serialization begins. So as soon as all of the model has been transformed, they will be serialized. A serializer combines the model to generate one or multiple bundles. A serializer combines the model to generate one or multiple bundles. A bundle is literally a bundle of models combined into a single JavaScript file. So the serializer combines the models to generate one or multiple bundles. Okay, it's a serializer. Interesting. And then you have models. Metro has split out into multiple models corresponding to every step in the flow, each with their own responsibility. This means that have a resolver, transformer, a serializer. This model can be swapped out depending on your needs. But just to understand what it's doing behind the scenes, Metro, all right, which is the model bundler, that it passes through the resolution. So it's going to analyze your code, particularly your JavaScript code, from an entry point, and then it's going to look for all of your code and in its dependency, build the dependency graph, and it does in parallel with the transformation. As it resolves the models, it also transform or transpile those format model into something understandable by the target platform. In this case, React Native. So you're gonna output this into something that can be understood by React Native, and then the serialization, which is now combines the models. Okay, the serialization. As soon as all the model has been transformed, they will be serialized. And a serializer combines the models to generate one or multiple bundles. Okay, all of this content that I have transformed, and all of these models that I know, that I resolve, and then I transform into a understandable format by the target platform, in this case React Native, then I'm going to now generate a serializer combines the models to generate one or multiple bundles. A bundle is literally a bundle of models combined into a single JavaScript. So in this case, it's going to take all of this data, all of these transformations into a bundle, into a single or multiple bundles. Okay, all right. Bundling API and the model API, and then you can configure Metro and Metro CLI. This is also now spin up a dev server like this, testing Metro chains inside of the React Native, developing a Metro test app. Okay, to create now workspaces, use Yarlink to replace Metro package in your target projects. Configure Metro watch folders to work with our linked link package, because Yarlink has included files outside of the immediate React Native project, and debugging login. Okay. 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 All right. So far so good. Then it is pretty much this one. Right. This is the notes, and this is from Expo Docs. Okay, and also the GitHub actions here. Where I have this. This definitely looks like ChatGPT, man. ChatGPT, good, bro. So let me actually put it this. Add schedule notifications, and there you got it, right? So schedule notification app. There you got it. All right, finally. Should go. Okay, here we are. Recurring reminder. And here we are. Okay. So there are a couple stuff that we're gonna do here. No? What about now? Yeah, there are a couple of stuff that we're gonna do here. We're gonna create a counter. Where it is? Why you don't go?
Logging to.
Okay. Countdown timer. Okay. So we're gonna create here is the countdown timer. So countdown timer like this. This feature will remind you to do something, right? So this feature will remind you to do something, right? To do something. Clean the oven, wash the car, you name it. Exactly. So clean the oven, wash the car, you name it. At a certain time interval. You will get a notification when the task is due, and will store the timestamp of past combination in the history page. Okay, so at a certain certain interval, at a certain time interval. All right, and you will get a notification, and you will get a notification here when the task is due. When the task is due, so when the task is due, due meaning es como vencido en español. Exactly, it's an adjective. Expected to happen or arrive. When the task is due. And we'll store the timestamp of past completion in the history page. Okay. And this is part of the user story. You will get a notification when the task is due, and we'll store the timestamp. And we'll store the timestamp of past task in the history tab, right, or in the history page of past completion. Okay, of past completion in the history page. Let's get into this. Let's see how you might have a UI updated every second with the current timestamp. That's quite interesting.
Build our counter feature. So I'll call this counter. Not very good at naming things, but basically what it's going to be is it's going to be a reminder for you to do something that you need to do regularly. So, for example, wash the car, or take out the bins, or change your bed sheets, something like that you need to do regularly. So, for example, wash the car, or take out the bin.
Take out the bins. That's a good one. Clean up the oven. Wash the car. Take out the bin. Yeah, change your bed sheet. Change your bed sheets. So you name it. At a certain
or change your bed sheets, something like that. So we're going to build a UI. So it will look a little bit like this. So this is what we're going to start with. So we're going to say that the thing that you need to do is due in how many seconds, how many minutes, how many hours, how many days. And when the thing that you're meant to do is overdue, we're going to have this garish red color. So you would really say that you would really see that the thing you're meant to do.
So this is the design here. This is the design. Okay. So this is the design. So this is the design.
You're late doing it. And the idea is that you could press this button saying that you've done the thing, and the countdown will reset, and you'll schedule a notification in the future for you to do the thing. So to start off, how do we render a UI that updates every second? So this will actually get more complicated now with React Compiler, because React Compiler, being the clever thing that it is, doesn't update UI elements that haven't changed in state. So that's something to bear in mind if you're building a UI that needs to update every second.
So one way to do that in React. Okay.
More complicated now with React Compiler, because React Compiler, being the clever thing that it is, doesn't update UI elements that haven't changed in state. So that's something to bear in mind if you're building a UI that needs to update every second. Let's open our counter screen. So this is a UI that needs to update every second. It's UI elements that now with React Compiler, because React Compiler, being the clever thing that it is, doesn't update UI.
Yeah, the React compiler doesn't update UI elements that haven't changed in the state.
UI elements that haven't changed in state.
So
that's
one way to do that is to, instead of actually keep track each one of independent date, we can use track. Track is whenever a define is track is the date, right? Yeah, so there's a couple of things to do here. Or we can define multiple state for hours, minutes, seconds, and so on and so forth, all right? Which is now putting a lot of work, so making you are telling to React to do a lot of the heavy lifting, unnecessary heavy lifting, to do that, right? So to every second if you're going to update that particular state and so on and so forth. So instead of doing that, what we can do is to only keep track of one state, all right, and therefore is update that and then recompute that on every update state. In other words, that transform that into proper a format, time format, with hours, minutes, seconds, any times we update the state. So instead of putting the updater on the use effect, which is something that we can do, we just only is define is a schedule, or define is a button that is going to trigger that UIs on any second.
To bear in mind if you're building a UI that needs to update every second. Let's open our counter screen. So this is this index screen. So let's just see how would we create a component that just renders seconds elapsed. So update every second. I'll do a use state here. So use state. And let's start with 0. And this will be our seconds elapsed. And set seconds elapsed.
Yeah, this is so far so good.
And I'm just going to, so we're not going to keep this code indefinitely, I'm just going to render this in a text so we can see it on the screen.
Alright, exactly.
Alright, I want to update this set seconds.
So I want to update this set seconds. So it can be is whether there's something else happening, especially on a schedule notification, or we can add a button to that.
Every second. And to do that, we're going to use a use effect and an interval.
This is one way to do this, all right?
Two very dangerous things to be used sparingly. So let's do a use effect. Remember, this takes in a function.
Exactly, because there are subscriptions to that. So yeah, you're subscribing to
and we only want to run this once when the component
exactly,
is
when the
initially
component
rendered,
is
so we'll pass in
initially
this empty array. Now we want to create a Node.js interval, so we'll do set interval.
set interval, exactly. What
So
you're gonna
this
pass now
also takes
is
a function.
the function. So after 1 millisecond,
And the second argument is, so the first argument is something to do after this interval, and the second argument is how long you want the interval to be in milliseconds. So we want it to be 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds.
and then
So in this interval, we want to
is
set seconds
update the
elapsed.
state.
And in this case, so we can't use the seconds elapsed from the use state
Because this is now a use, because this function only have access to things that are on the
because
use
this
effect.
function only has access to the things that are in the use effect. So this is not going to update.
So this is not going to update. But what we can do is to now use is the previous state, or the helper, the function that help us to update the state, the
But
previous state.
use state functions with the set state, you can also pass in a function rather than the new value. So the function tells you what the current value is. So we'll take the current value and we'll increment it by 1. So val plus 1.
In this case, like that.
And the last thing, and this is very important if you're ever
Exactly. And this is very important to actually avoid any memory leaks, is that, hey, I want you to timer this API. I want you to timer API is to clean up, remove this callback that I subscribe to the timer, right? In other words, it's like remove that. So I don't want you to continue adding functionality here, or to continue to evaluate in this, right? So to do that, we now on the use effect say, hey, let's want to hold this in a variable, right? And on the cleanup function, we want is to now clear that interval as it is.
dealing with intervals or anything that you're setting up to do asynchronous things in the background, you want to make sure that you tidy up after yourself. So you need to clear the interval when the component gets unmounted. So this set interval actually returns a number, which is the interval ID. So const interval ID.
So this is returning an ID from the intervals to say, hey, this is something that I register, and this is a function associated with this ID that is going to run here. In other words, I schedule these functions to run after an X amount of time, and this is the identifier.
There you go. So you can see this is a Node.js timeout. And in a use effect, you can actually return a function
to clean up.
And this gets run. So this is like, if anyone remembers class components, this is like before unmount. Like a component lifecycle. So this gets run just before
before unmount.
Or the component gets unmounted from gets unmounted. So here we'll do a clear interval to tidy up our interval ID. So this ensures that we're not going to have multiples of these intervals running at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much like that. But again, this is so what we are doing here is go back to our code. We already launched that. Open up the iOS simulator. I don't want to install the newest version. I just want to sync that. So Metro behind the scenes now is resolve, which creates the dependency graph, and so resolve and transforms all of those models from a format that is understandable by the target platform, in this case React Native, and then it serializes that. In other words, it transforms all of that into one or single bundles. As you can see, this is the iOS bundle. So that's what it's doing, and then it's sending over all of this bundle over, in this case, through the simulator, and now it's connected with that. So no bridge warned, so there's some warning here, especially from the Expo SDK. So far so good, no problem. And well, what we have in memory, right? So if we go to the counter here, and let's go to let's go to the counter here. This is the index, but the index what? The counter. Yeah, the counter here. If we add this now text component, and then we say, hey, I want you to show is this seconds, you're going to comply TypeScript comply because it's what is seconds, and I say, hey, this is a user state, I want to keep track of this state, all right, where initially will be 0, okay, and because this return me is a tuple, which is a type of, in JavaScript, tuples arrays place to array plays two roles, whether it's arrays or tuples. The difference is that with arrays you have all of the elements of the same type with an indefinite size, where now as tuple you have a fixed length size where each one of those elements can be different or of a different type. In this case, the different type is that the first parameter we're going to get is the value seconds, seconds elapsed, right? And here this is the set of function, set seconds elapsed, right? There you got it. All right, cool, awesome. This is second elapsed, all right. And if you want to now update the UI, you can really import this or React. That's right. And if you want to update this, all right, we do that right after the interesting. So we did this right after here. Say use effect as a way to synchronize with external systems. In this case, we're about to synchronize is with the timer, which is not native to JavaScript. This is now exposed to the language via the platform, whether it is the Node.js or the web platform. So in our case, we're using is the Node.js interval. So it expects here to pass now a function or a callback. And the second parameter is the array of dependency. In our case, this one updates on the first. This will only call this effect on the first render. All right. So when the component is mounted, and here we say, hey, I want you to now run this function, all right, or run this callback here, right, after 1000 milliseconds. Now, what is a callback, or what is the stuff that you want to run? Well, update state. In this case, set seconds elapsed, and because we can use directly the state here, because in order to do that, we need to pass that as an array of dependency to this use effect. What we can do is with the state is to pass a functions to work with the previous state, and then do something about it, which is by passing this a function, in this case the previous value, which you can say value, and the next value will be is this one, for example, whatever you have on the value plus 1, right? So yeah, this is pretty much what I want to do. Simple. So now when I reload this, I don't know why it doesn't work that way. I think I already add that properly. into that. Yep. Am I showing that? Yes, seconds elapse. When I hit here, as you can see, it's now showing this render. But it makes a lot of sense to use an effect for this. All right, so that's good. That's great.
So now when I save,
But because we don't want to have some memory leaks by now anytime we get into this, in other words, so this memory leaks is by having these functions to run indefinitely, even though when you close the app. So for example, when you close the app, right, that will be now still running in the background, right? You know, so to avoid any memory leaks for that, this is on use effect. We have a return function where here we can say, hey, this is the stuff that I want to do. This is pretty much like before mounted in class in React class component, where the idea here is to, I want to get the reference of this, which fortunately for us, it gave us now the interval ID, which is interval ID as a number, all right? And then what I want to do is to pass a function or call a function called clear interval, and I want you to remove that from that. So by the time we do this, now we save ourselves for some memory leaks. Of course, it will run indefinitely. We can do is now refresh this, and by the time we get in here, we're going to we now start this again, right? And again, this will run is once, right? So, but by the time this component is unmounted, all right, it now, of course, it will hold that reference there, but it will now remove is the interval for that.
you can see that my little counter has started incrementing. And when I reload, it will start from 0 again. So if you don't do this clear interval and you reload, you'll see that the counter is starting to count multiples at the same time. So if you're seeing that effect ever, then you've probably forgotten to clear your past time. So if you see that, you've probably forgotten to clear your previous timeout. Okay, so a library that I pretty much always install on all my projects when I have to deal with dates is Date-fns. It's one of 2 libraries that are really popular for dates, I think Date-fns and Moment. And this is a great example of a library that you might have used on the web, and it also works in React Native, which is amazing. And the main things that I like using in Date-fns is that you can format, so I'm going to use this here as well, but you can format a date given like this format structure. You can get a distance, format distance, and format distance strict. So this is really handy because you can, in words, you can say how long ago something happened. So you can, so rather than saying that, oh, this happened in May the 4th, it will actually tell you in words that this happened 12 days ago.
So it translates into a human readable format.
And it has a bunch of other utility functions. So let's install Date-fns. So we're using npx xy install, and the previous time that I pointed this out, we had an example of a thing that we installed that said, oh, we're installing an SDK whatever compatible package. And this is actually an example of a library that doesn't have an SDK compatible package, because either we don't track it or we just assume that it's always going to be compatible. And this log here prints out that whether it was an SDK compatible package or not. So here it says installing one other package, and other in this scenario means that it is not tracked to be SDK compatible. But this is just to show that you can install pretty much all libraries using npx xy install. So it's just a nice default to get into.
But this is very specific to Expo, to install now only packages that are relevant for the repo. npm install package here.
So we're using npx actual install, and the previous time that I pointed this out. Alright, so the next thing.
Okay. Or I can uninstall that. Or I can say remove that. npm export npm index. What if I want to uninstall something? Unlike the web, React Native is not backward compatible. This means that npm package often needs to be exact right version for the current installed copy of React Native in your expo. Expo CLI provide a best effort tool for doing it using a list of popular package and the non-working version combination. Simply use the install command and drop in replace from npm install. Because of the compatibility here. Okay, because of compatibilities. Anyway, we got this and git status. So git diff yarn lock. Exactly this one. But I want to now is do this git status. Git add the app counter in there. That's right. And then you say git commit with a message that is a simple counter, right? And then now move
is
into
this
the track
little
and countdown.
segment which renders this number and the seconds underneath, and actually created this component for us so we could just copy it because it's things that we've we've built already, so there's no point. I'm not going to type it live. But in your components, if you create a file called time segment, I called it time as segment here, but it should be time segment. So let's go to the components and time segment.tsx. And I will just copy this file. So we have kind of a similar style as, so we've used all of these things before, I think. So we have properties. This is the React thing where you can destructure properties. So it takes the number, the unit, so day, month, whatever. And I've also optionally passed in a text style. For some reason. Oh, I passed in the text style so it would be flexible, so we could make the text white or black depending on the UI that we need. So this is actually a handy thing that you can use if you are using TypeScript, and I hope you are. You can use this text style prop, which is exported from type, which is exported from React Native. So this guarantees that you are not going to pass nonsense in there that isn't actually a style. So we need to distinguish between our overdue state and our not overdue state. So let's start by creating a type for what we want to store. So we want to store a countdown status, and we want to know whether it's overdue. So whether we're rendering a big old red screen or not. This will be a boolean.
Exactly. If we need to render a big old
and we also want to have a distance. And we're going to use a utility function from Date-fns to calculate this. So actually this is going to be the return type of interval to duration. So this is probably the most complicated TypeScript thing we're going to show, but you can use return type
and a utility function from
type of.
It's like, hey, when you
interval
do return type
to duration, which is
duration.
Imported from date function. And this is handy because I don't need, so interval to duration, so it has a return type here, it has a return type of duration. So if we go in here, so this is what it looks like. So it will have years, so it will be an object that will have years, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, seconds as optional numbers to derive the numbers or 0. So I could actually do duration here and import it from date function. Maybe that would be nicer. Well, now you know. So if you need, so this will give you the return type of this function that I've called. But actually, now that I've gone all the way through it, I think it looks a little bit clearer if I actually just do duration here. All right, and then let's do a useState to store our current countdown status. So let's do a const. So this will be status and set status.
From the counter
we'll do a useState, and if you want to tell the useState, so this is a TypeScript thing, if you want to tell the useState what type it's going to be, you use these angle brackets, you can put the type in here. Right. So now it's enforcing that everything passed into here has to be of that type. And we're going to give it a default value, which will be not overdue. And let's do a distance of an empty object, so everything will be null. So let's also do a timestamp. So this is going to be dynamic eventually, but let's start with a timestamp. So const timestamp, which is date.now plus 10 times 1000. Okay, so this is basically our due date timestamp. So this will be for our testing purposes. So I made it quite small, so I made it 10 seconds. So this is 10 seconds from now, and I've hard-coded it, so it will be 10 seconds from when I load the app. And we're going to use this as our deadline date for testing purposes. So in our use effect, when we set our interval, we want to set the initial value of this countdown status, so this thing here. So for this, we want to check whether the thing that we are checking for is overdue or not. So whether this timestamp is in the future or in the past. So const is overdue. And this is where the date functions comes in. So we can use a utility function from here called isBefore. And basically this tells us whether the first date we pass in is before the second one. So timestamp and date.now.
Oh, this is a convenient function for isBefore.
Got to actually call the function. There we go. So this will return a boolean. And now we can use another utility function from date functions, which is interval to duration. So this is what we're using this duration from. So that was why I was using the return type of the function. But if we do interval to duration, so const distance, interval to duration, and the duration that we're calculating, it actually depends on whether the thing was overdue or not. So let's do if it is overdue.
Whether the thing is overdue or not.
Then we need to pass in a start and the end. So start from the timestamp and end. So the distance needs to like be linear. So if current time is after the timestamp, then we start from this timestamp and we end at date.now. And otherwise,
it's overdue.
we do the converse. So we start at date.now and we end at the timestamp. And we'll call set status. So is overdue and the distance. Lovely. Then we can get rid of our seconds elapsed code as well, because we're not going to be using that anymore. Okay, so if I just console log the status, just to make sure that everything is working. Console log programming is where it's at. There we go. So it's ticking away, and there we go. So I got to 1 second, and it's saying that it is overdue, and now overdue switched to true, and now it is ticking away. So our UI will update every second. Well, we have the data for it. We need to build the actual UI to update. Let's start by rendering this text. So we want thing due in or thing overdue by. Let's go. We want above our
there's a lot
button.
of things going on, especially when working.
Alright, so the next thing is this little, but
especially
actually
when
no use state,
working
so this is a TypeScript thing.
of this.
And time, this will be for testing purposes.
So especially with working on these components here, that she makes that countdown timer, persist state, history, confetti, countdown timer. Is this component, all right? The time segment, which is a component that she made here on the component. What's the name? Time segment. Time segment. .tsx. We paste this code here. We can also use this, but convenient type style from React Native. Alright, and we add this, or we update the counter here. And then we update the counter here. Exactly by passing is that. So she defines now the holy moly. So she defined on the counter now is this. All right. All of this line of code. So she import date here as well as the component here. All right. To say, hey, this is 10 seconds from now, as part of our testing, for testing purpose. Okay. In some type, he would say, hey, this is overdue, and then the distance. This is something that, this is a utility function that you can use to actually get is the return type from a function, right? And define that particular state that we want to keep track, which is the overdue. Say, hey, we are enforcing that this will be that this state will have this shape, all right, of the status and set status like so. Exactly. And this initially will be now the is overdue false, and the distance as an empty object. But again, this return type of interval to duration is coming from here. It's saying that this is a duration, and the duration output you an object that is made with this year, month, weeks, days, hours, minutes, and seconds. That's massive, bro. That's helpful. That's helpful a lot. That's helpful. So by the time that this function has been executed, right, we want to know if the overdue is done, okay, by saying, hey, is overdue, but I want to get access to the status dot overdue, okay, because I want to check now that status. But in order to have access to that, we need to pass this as an array of dependencies, especially if you want to notify the isEffect to keep track is states. But here we're saying, hey, is overdue, and to check that is that we get the time step, all right, followed by the date dot now, and we're gonna pass that is to a helper function called is before. Okay, is before. So is before. Is this date? Is this one? Okay. Is this time step date is before from this? Where is before coming from? Date and date to compare. So this is the date to compare. Hey, this is before this time step? No. So this is false. No, this is false. No, this is false. No, this is false, until it becomes true. This is overdue. And then when it comes to calculate the distance, okay, the distance object, right? We say, hey, to calculate the distance object here, we say, hey, interval to duration, we're gonna pass now the interval as an object here. We're gonna pass the interval here, okay, exactly. We're gonna pass this interval, start a new date, and the end interval to duration, and they give you the duration object that contains the duration in the unit specified by the object. Okay, interval to duration. In this case, it tells you, it descriptively tells you is how many years, month, date, hours, minute, and second has already passed. Oh my God, this is pornographic. So here you say, hey, is this overdue is true, right? So I want you to now show is the start date start as the star with the new date. Okay, I want you to show is now the star with the okay, I want you to show is a star with time step, all right, and then now, I think it's now, or end with, let me actually put a practice here, a definition here, why not? Okay. And okay, I get it. And that'll be now the date dot now. If it is overdue, all right, you're gonna show this distance. Exactly. If it is overdue, you're gonna show now the start. If it is overdue, you're gonna show is the exactly. If this is overdue, you're gonna show now is the date dot now from the timestamp. However, if it's not, all right, the start will be now is the timestamp, and the end will be now the current time, which is the date dot now. Holy moly. Holy moly, bro. God damn it, bitch. Holy crap. That was massive, bro. That was massive. And if you want to look at that, you just console log that stuff. Exactly.
Just to make sure that.
So this is now in the status here. You can say, hey, here. You can say console.log here, the distance.
Everything is working.
Or because this will gonna run here after that. But we're not updating is the state. We need to do that. Exactly. Set status. Exactly. We need to set status here. To say, hey, this is the set status of the distance and thing is overdue. Is overdue. Exactly. Now, if we want to know that, so anytime this function is being called or render on the status, we are about to see that. Okay. So if we take a look at the console here, once now is bundled that, so it resolve, transform, and serialize that. Once we get here on the counter, it's overdue false, then it becomes true, and then it show now seconds and all that kind of stuff. All right. Yes. So this thing is overdue.
Console log programming. it's ticking away, and there we go. So I got to.
But that's quite interesting here. Time step and the date.now.
Elapsed code as well, because we're not going to be.
Exactly. We're also gonna get rid of this because we're not gonna use that.
Using that anymore.
Similar for the second elapse. For this. But the thing
Okay, so if I just
here
console
is-
log the status, just to make sure that everything is working. Console log programming is where it's at. There we go. So it's ticking away, and there we go. So I got to 1 second, and it's saying that it is overdue, and now overdue switched to true, and now it is ticking away. So our UI will update every second. Well, we have the data for it. We need to build the actual UI to update. Let's start by rendering this text. So we want thing due in or thing overdue by. So let's go, we want above our button. So let's say if status is overdue, then we'll render a text saying
So we're actually bundling is the app
thing
again.
overdue by. And otherwise,
With
we'll render
metro.
some text saying thing due in.
Exactly, because that is
Okay.
running.
You can see that every time you reload, because we're not storing the data in async storage yet, every time we reload, it will get reset. But this is fine. It's actually good for testing.
So,
Alright, and
Okay.
let's do our timer segments as well before we add style. So we'll during this text. So we want thing due in or thing overdue by.
Okay, this is tracking countdown and overdue dates. Names. That was mind blowing as well. So git status here, say hey, git add git log simple counter. So git status here is git add everything here, git status of all of that, and then we say hey, git commit with a message of now adding that tracking countdown and overdue. Tracking countdown and overdue. That is mind blowing, bro.
So let's go. We want above our button. So let's say if status is overdue, then we'll render a text saying thing overdue by, and otherwise we'll render some text saying thing due in. Okay, you can see that every time you reload, because we're not storing the data in async storage yet, every time we reload it will get reset, but this is fine. It's actually good for testing. Alright, and let's do our timer segments as well before we add style. So we'll do a view, and we'll use this timer segment file that we created. So timer segment,
Where we're gonna pass now the
and we'll have
state that we
unit
wanna
is
keep
days.
track.
The number will be status,
Status dot
distance,
dot
days,
days.
and this might be empty. This might be undefined. So let's also default it to 0. And yeah, last thing we need is some text there, but we'll do that later. And let's do 3 more of these. So we need hours, there will be distance hours, minutes, which will be distance minutes, and seconds.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, by default they're rendering underneath each other, but we probably want them to render next to each other in a row. So we'll do a style, styles row,
dot row.
and give it a
We
flex
already
direction
have
row.
that row. It's a flex direction road, right? Bam.
Lovely. So let's see what is different here. Okay, I'm going to give this text some styles. So we need a heading style. So style equals styles heading. And the heading, so font size 24, font weight bold, margin bottom 24, and well, I guess we don't need the color. I don't know why I added a color here, but there we go. Okay, so now we want to change the container so that if you are late, it will be very red. So we can use our, as you can recall, you can pass in an array of styles here instead of just an object. So let's turn this, make this into an array, and we can say if it is overdue, then do styles container late, otherwise undefined, and we'll create this container late style, which will give a background color of red. Let's make it very annoying, so you want to do the thing to not have this red background. Right, so now the problem is that I think we'd like the text to be white here if the thing is overdue.
So it's the same. So you're gonna check
if you recall,
now
in the timer segment, we have an optional prop for the text style that gets passed to both of these styles. So we can say, we can add another style to just say white text. Which is here. Style. Text style. There we go. Text style, which is styles white text. My text. And this will be color white. Theme color white. Okay, and we want this to, well, now it disappears in our white background because we want this to only be color white if the thing is overdue. So let's do if status is overdue, then we'll use the white text, otherwise undefined.
The default one.
Okay, and we can copy this style to the other timer segment components as well.
Exactly, it's about the impact.
And actually we can use this for our heading as well. So if it is overdue, we can do styles white text. Make sure it works. Lovely. So this now looks like the UI. And let's update this button as well to say, I've done the thing. I think we need a little bit of padding between these two. So I'm just going to add it to the row. So let's do a margin bottom of 24. So just add some space between these two. I think that looks alright.
Holy moly, bro.
Hours.
Okay, but because now in terms of logic it's already set, and this is mainly used as the Date-fns. So we can use now is the interval to durations to get that type, which give us now is how many time has passed from one date to another using the is before, which is giving you to a boolean. Hey, is before? No. Is before? No. Is before? No. And it's before. Well, I want you to now calculate the distance. Again, very helpful stuff here that you're gonna do a lot of the time with timers. 10 seconds from now for testing purpose. And you got is this. Holy moly. So in our component here, we're going to add now is couple stuff. Is the things overdue by and things due in, by saying, hey, first I want you to now check if the status is overdue. If it is, I want you to now show is the time segment component. My bad. Is text text component from React Native. Why are you doing this? That's interesting. Okay, I already imported that. Okay, so text component from that. Yeah, text, right? And here you say, hey, it's overdue. Things due in. Is not overdue. Is this things due in? Exactly, things overdue by. In this case is things overdue by this one. Otherwise is this, right? Things due in. Pretty much this one. So this is now status is overdue, things overdue by, things due in, touchable opacity, style, active opacity, and on press. So this is actually going to work. It's supposed to work. I don't know why do I need to always reload stuff here, especially if I made a change. Right? No, I want to go ahead. No. Let me now go here, get in here. You can? No? What about now? Run this with the tunnel. If we do this, no? Okay, no problem. So launch the app. I'm telling you no. Then you got it. This is the counter. It for some reason is not updating that. Things is overdue. Things overdue is not showing that. Touchable opacity. What about now? Does it render that? I don't need to reload this application anytime I made a change. Alright, now it works. Things due in. Status is overdue. Things overdue by. Alright, good. This actually works. And then we're going to create now our view where we want to define is each one of these individual components, and then from this object we're going to pass down into each one of them. Yes, but it's because the library itself handles that for you. It creates that object for you can now pass into all of these different components. So by calling time segment here, and then say, hey, why this doesn't work, bro? And then say number, unit, and textile. So the unit will be is a say days. Alright, unit dates, and the number will be is the state that we keep tracking, status dot distance dot that's great, powerful. So DNS or DNF Actually, it's very helpful. Date-fns. Absolutely, Date-fns. It's gonna help us with handle this kind of stuff. And it's 0 if we don't pass any stuff there. And we can now replicate this, all right, or we can replicate this really. And then we can replicate this okay. Okay, if I want to clone this, I do this 4 times, right? And then I show this on dates, dates hours, minutes, and seconds. And here I'm going to pass is the proper states, the proper properties here. So hours here is days, hours, day hours, minutes, and then seconds. That's right. I want to display this. And if I go to this, you're gonna display this as it is, right? But we want to show things in a row, not as a column. We can pass now a style and say, hey, this will be is the
styles. No. Text.
The style row. Say styles dot row. A method that we haven't defined that right now because we're about to do this. Say, hey, this will be now is the row right down here, right? And we say, hey, flex direction as a row, and then you got it. We're showing this, all of this in a row. And then if we want to match now the style when things are overdue, we want us to now show is or create now a style, but a style heading, which is going back to this. Say this is now heading.
And the heading. So font size 24. Font weight.
Okay.
Bold.
So this is now a heading of font size 24. So font size 24, right? font size 24, and font weight bold. So font weight bold. Right?
Okay. Well, I guess
some margin buttons here. Say so margin bottom here of 24. So 24, and some color.
Don't need the color. I don't know why.
Nope. Only that. Let's go with the text component here and adding this text to style the heading for both of them, things overdue and things due in, like that. So by the time we save this, we can look at this as it is. Yeah, things due in, and there you got it. All right, and now things overdue by this one. All right, this is actually interesting because that logic that is overdue is before is evaluating that. That is the mechanism that help us here to do this, to make this thing possible.
Added color here, but there you go. Late, it will be very red. So we can use our, as you can recall, you can pass in an array of styles here instead of just an object. So let's turn this, make this into an array, and we can say if it is overdue.
So if it's status
then
overdue,
do styles,
then we want to pass
container
is a
late.
container here.
Otherwise, undefined.
So this is more like dive into this topic. So we can pass now an array of style and then now ask a question. Hey, is this overdue? Is the status is overdue, right? If it is, we want us to now show is the style dot container late, otherwise undefined, right? So show is whatever you have by default. So container late is this is container late, that now it will have, or it will show a background color of whatever you have on the theme, whether it is the color error here, right? And now by the time we actually pass this, things due in seconds, you got this one. It's quite interesting because it's showing in a negative format here. It's showing this in a negative format. Is this overdue? You're gonna show this? Yeah, it's because it's showing these negative values, right? Exactly. So if this is overdue, you're gonna show now that the difference, okay, between the start time and the end date. If this is overdue, you're gonna show is now how many time has passed from this moment and on. All right. Now we can also change here the and also the style, the color here, because we also want to show is the white color.
Red. The problem is we have an optional prop for the text style. There we go. And this will be color white.
we can just do something like this and pass to each one of them the text style by saying is style. So if this is overdue, is the status dot is overdue, right? We want to show is now the theme dot. It's quite interesting because it needs that particular style here. You can say, hey, color white, right? But it say, hey, I can recognize that, otherwise undefined. But it say, hey, this style is not assigned to that properly here, so you can do this kind of stuff. What you can do is to say, hey, this is a style dot text white, and then you pass now this, say text white for that, right? When you say text white, color themes color white, and this will work as expected. Similar for this. Now cloning this and here, and by the time we look at the counter here, hey, it already changed that. And we also want to change is the text by again passing now an array of function here, right? So style dot heading. So if this is overdue, right, it wants to pass now the arrays of styling and say, hey, styles dot text white, right? Things doing, oh, I get it. It's fuck. No, why? No, what you thinking? What you doing? Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. Oh my God! No. Undo. Keyboard. Mac. Shortcut, bro. What the fuck's wrong with you, huh? Command Shift, Command. Well, Command Shift. Jesus. Chill, bro. And is here things overdue, where you're gonna pass now this array of a style text y, and now it's going to show that properly, right? So things due in this one, right? And bam, things overdue by 2 seconds, and we can also change that things by saying, hey, you have done the things. I have done the things.
It looks like the UI, and I think we need.
I have done the thing. I've done the thing.
A little bit of padding between these two, so I'm just going to add it to the row. So let's do a margin bottom of 24, so just add some space between.
Okay. Yeah, this is more like adding a little bit of a space to the row. Say margin bottom 24, and there you got it.
These two.
Lovely.
I think that looks alright. So the next thing we're going to do is persist the state. So we've seen this done already with async storage. We're going to do this again with async storage. Originally when I did this, I intended to set the timestamp with like date.now instead of seconds, so I used milliseconds here. But
So this is the countdown timer UI. Very, very interesting name. Git status. Add everything here. Git add everything here. Git commit with a message of adding countdown. Adding countdown timer UI. And that is quite interesting, bro. Git push origin to the recurring reminder, right? And by the time you do this, let's go to explore how to create timer in React. Use Date-fns to provide a format. That's interesting. Format date with time zone support. God damn. That works on browser and Node.js. Holy moly, bro. Date, hour, minutes, and second. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. Persist count state. Add activity indicator.
And actually, one thing that I wanted to show you that I didn't add initially in the example is that it is not overdue, so it's like this default state. Just before I return, I'm going to... And then justify content center says, and in our EU state, this is interesting. It's always tricky when you have an initial state as well. Okay, let's put the so would that work? Full screen loading computer timestamp. Okay, so this does work. It actually wouldn't work now with the initial load, because if we didn't have the last computer timestamp, then it would load forever. We can add some additional handling to this, but I'm not going to do it right now. I think the idea was to show that you could do like a full screen loading state, and this is what that does. And you add things to your course that you weren't planning to store. So let's do that. As is.
Activity indicator. Activity indicator. Activity indicator. Storing timer history.
So date set implicit, and we'll pass
and then show this storing timer history. Storing timer history. So in other words, you define some sort of state in that component, and then confetti and haptics. That's interesting. Okay. It was lovely, by the way. This is adding countdown timer UI. Adding countdown timer UI. Okay, that was quite interesting. Quite a thing. Quite a thing. And that'll be all for the
So-
video. Take care. Bye bye.